On today's Transport Evolved, Nissan opens up final LEAF orders for the US and pre-orders for the UK, but be aware, it'll cost you more than £99. Lithium-ion batteries aren't as environmentally unfriendly as some anti-EV campaigners would let you believe. GM applies to trademark range anxiety, and Tesla jokes that it's going to try to trademark the term Tesla grin. And the electric motorbike world loses one of its stars. Coming up next on Transport Evolved. Transport Evolved is sponsored by owning an electric car. All you need to know about owning an electric car. www.owningelectriccar.com. And also sponsored by Audible Podcast. To claim your free audiobook from over 75,000 titles and a no obligation trial, head to www.audiblepodcast.com/Transport Evolved. It's time to evolve your transport. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode number 14 of Transport Evolved for Thursday, September the 2nd, 2010. My name is Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield, and I am your usual Transport Evolved host. And joining me today in the Transport Evolved virtual studio. I don't normally have this much trouble with my pronunciation, but I have just got off 2 hours on a motorbike and it's really hot outside. Anyway, joining me in the studio today, the virtual studio, is a guest who used to be a host but is now a guest. And before anyone asks, no, I did not chuck him off. And here to tell us why, he has resigned his position as a host and become a guest, Mr. Mike Boxwell. Welcome back, Mike.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Is it because of the haircut?
Well, that as well, I guess. But no, I'm poacher turned gamekeeper. I've been looking for a number of years of ways of getting back into the electric vehicle industry full time, and I found a way. And I've actually gone and bought an electric vehicle manufacturer.
Okay,
I'm not going to say who it is yet.
Okay.
But
it's not Tesla, is it?
It's not a Tesla. I haven't bought Tesla. I haven't even bought a single share in Tesla. No, it's a commercial vehicle manufacturer.
Okay. So I'm not going to push you any further though, because that would
we
be
can talk about it later if you want.
That would be rude, really. But of course, our job here on Transport Evolved is to try and remain as impartial as possible when we're talking about the electric vehicle industry. And so Mike and I have had a bit of a chat and decided that it's Mike's going to come on as a commentator, but he's not going to be able to come on and talk about his own company. That's the rule. See? It's the same reason why I won't buy shares in Tesla. You see, I'd love shares in Tesla, but I can't. But there is a little bit of hypocrisy, which we'll come to later on in the show. Something else I've done this week. But anyway, let's go and introduce our second guest, all the way from Autobloggreen, contributor to the fine thing, Mr. Domenick Yoney. How are you today?
Doing very well, thank you, Nikki. Nice to see you again, Mike.
Mike is
good to see you too.
Yeah, I was going to say,
see you too.
Mike is being very quiet there in the background. So, Domenick, how are things in your neck of the woods?
Pretty good. Busy. Lots of news going on. Lots of stuff.
And how's things north of the border?
North. Actually, I'm south of the border. I'm
Are you
Canadian,
south
but
of the
I'm
border? You see, I thought you were still in Canada. I see.
Still in Canada, but I'm in the north part of Florida.
Ah, you're quite a long way south then. Okay, how are things in Florida? Quick recovery.
Humid.
Hot and humid, and maybe the humidity is playing with your microphone. We do apologise. Dominick's microphone is misbehaving itself, and he keeps flipping in between me being able to hear him and me not being able to hear him. Either the aforementioned 2-hour motorcycle ride in the sweltering late summer heat, or my ears are packing up or Dominick's equipment's packing up. I don't know which it is. But look, if you are watching us live, and there are quite a few people watching us live at the moment, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll actually see that we've got a little chat room. Join us live at www.transportevolved.com/live. And if you go to that, you will see there's a little chat room in the bottom and you can come and join. We've currently got 5-6 people chatting in the chat room. So now, Mike, I have a confession to make.
Go on, what have you done?
Well, talking about hypocrisy and not supporting any particular company, trying not to support any particular company as a journalist. I need a car. And we have placed an order for the 2011 Nissan Leaf yesterday online. We stumped up the cash. It was, now this is interesting, Dominic, in America it was $99 deposit, right?
I believe so. That rings a bell.
Yeah, $99 deposit. But over here in jolly old England, they decided to charge £249. No, £257, I think.
Yep.
I'm just trying to find
$400.
Sorry?
$400.
$400. There you go.
Yep, that's the one. I had to pay as well. I've joined up as well.
So, Mike, I can't feel so bad now.
What colour is yours one, Nick? Then, Nikki?
Mine's a blue one because my wife likes
the blue
blue
one.
and she's decided to go for blue. And in fact, here's a picture of mine. Look, there you go. That's my reservation confirmed.
Very
I'm
good.
just checking that it's the one with all of my personal information hidden. I've cut out my reservation reference as well, but I am about 100 further up the list than you, right, Mike?
That's right. I ordered mine today, and I'm 240 something. So
and I'm 140 something.
They're selling about 200 a day. Then in that case, at the moment, so slightly less than they were in the States, but not bad.
Yeah, but then, it's a higher reservation price, obviously.
It's a higher reservation price, and also, I don't think they've got quite so many people excited about the car here in the UK. And the UK is a much smaller place, let's face it. There's a tenth of the number of people here, or a fifth of the number of people here. So
yeah,
you're never going to get quite that many.
I think I can guess why, though. Let's be honest. What's the BBC been up to this week?
Their usual.
Okay, so I was lying in bed on Sunday morning, as you do, wake up nice and slowly. Well, actually, no anymore because I've got 2 kids, which, by the way, are doing fabulously. Before the kids come tearing into the room, wanting me to get up and take them swimming or whatever else it is that children want you to do on a Sunday morning, watching the breakfast news, and they said, and coming up next, why electric cars could cost you more than you think. Oh, okay, here we go. Bad press time. So what the BBC did was they ran a story and they claim it was sourced by Mitsubishi. Now, this is the thing I don't understand, guys. They said the source was Mitsubishi, proving that the Mitsubishi i-MiEV was more expensive to run and more expensive to own than a comparable car. I think they compared it to a Fiat.
A Fiat 500 Life.
Fiat 500 Life. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Now, the Fiat 500 is a small car. The i-MiEV is a small car. I wouldn't necessarily put them in the same class, though, would you, Mike?
No, I mean, the Fiat 500 is probably a slightly smaller car, and of course it's only 3-door rather than 5-door. But I can see why they chose that one. Basically, if you're outside of London, the Mitsubishi did release these figures. It is slightly more expensive to buy and run a Mitsubishi i-MiEV over a Fiat 500. If you're inside London...
No. There's a year thing involved as well. They were looking at a 3-year...
Yeah.
I don't get that either. Most people keep their cars for more than 3 years, right, Dominic?
Oh yes. I think in the States, actually, it's been going like 10 years, in a neighborhood of 10 years, I believe.
Really? Wow.
I don't think it's that much. I'm sorry, I just swallowed an ice cube, which is what that funny noise was. I think this show should be sponsored by Mountain Dew. They've just brought Mountain Dew back to the UK, and I have a Baja Fresh cup full of Mountain Dew. That shows you my American connections there. Baja Fresh Mountain Dew. it is about, I would say, about 5 years here, Mike, would you? Unless you're right at the top of the new car. Because the problem is,
if you're going to own a Nissan or a Mitsubishi electric car, then you are right at the top of that chain, aren't you? You're going to be buying an expensive car, and a lot of them are going to be leased. So leasing here in the UK and Europe is much higher than it is in the States. So 3 to 4 years for an ownership of a car isn't that far out. But we'll see. True.
But anyway, it was blown up out. I felt it was blown up out of all proportion. And there's a really nice rebuttal at plugincars.com, I think.
Yep.
Brad Berman's site, plugincars.com. It's an excellent rebuttal of why they were wrong. I just get fed up with the BBC running hate campaigns against electric vehicles. I don't know what the problem is. Or hybrids, anything. Dominic?
No idea what they're up to.
It is just, it makes no sense.
Every night.
Sorry?
I was just going to say, I listen to the BBC radio every night, and generally I find them a pretty unbiased news source. The One Planet show is right on. There's no problem with electric cars there. It's just the main website.
A lot of it is down to the. But
a
lot of it is down to the individual journalists. Because I have contacts with a number of BBC journalists and broadcasters, and they're normally very positive. I know the Top Gear guys as well, and they're not quite so positive, shall we say?
Yeah, but we've all talked about the fact that Top Gear is an entertainment show, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But it really does come down to the individual journalists you get, as with a lot of these different organisations. You get somebody who's pro, or at least has an open mind, you're going to get a good report. Yeah. We have a great guy who does the reports for BBC in the Midlands, and he does an absolutely fabulous job promoting and talking about electric vehicles. Sorry, not necessarily promoting them, but talking about them in an open way. And so, it really does depend who you get to cover the stories.
It does seem a shame. I'm not going to spend too much on it, but it did seem that, they were going on and on and on about electric cars. No, they're never going to be any good. They're not going to, maybe I'm just biased. Anyway, somebody else who's using scare tactics this week. Who is it? Dominic, pop quiz.
That would be GM, possibly with their trademarking.
Range anxiety trademarked by General Motors, or at least attempted trademark by General Motors, if you can believe it. Right, so...
Well, that's great. It means that you can only have a range anxiety if you buy General Motors vehicle, because otherwise you're not allowed to have it. That's great.
I'll tell you what, I wrote an article for All Cars Electric yesterday at www.allcarselectric.com about this. And I'm just looking now. It's the flame war of flame wars. There are so many people made comments. People pro-GM, people anti-GM. Doug Korthoff must be having a field day because he hates GM, is convinced that the Volt is a hoax. Okay, so the story is this. Joel Ewanek, GM's head of US marketing, has said it's something that we call range anxiety, and it's real. We're going to position this car, the 2011 Chevy Volt, as a car first and electric car second. People do not want to be stranded on the way home from work, which is kind of bizarre, really, because most people in the US work less, 20 miles from their office? And so they're going to do less than 40 miles in the course of a day unless they run really long errands every single day. Now, there are two solutions to this. Either GM's range is not what they say it's going to be. They've gone, right, guys, okay, it's a 40-mile range on a really good day, and maybe sometimes you'll get 20. Or they don't want to be sued, or they don't have any faith in their own equipment. It smacks a little, Mike, of what we suffer from here in the UK, which is the we know best syndrome.
Yeah, I guess what it is they're trying to win sales off Nissan Leaf and vehicles like that. The Nissan Leaf looks like it's going to be a considerably cheaper vehicle, and so they're trying to fight back by saying, "Oh, you're going to run out of juice if you have an electric only car," which is complete tosh. As people who've driven electric cars always know, you're just as likely to run out of fuel in a gasoline car as you are run out of electricity in a battery car. So it makes no difference.
Yeah, but it's sad. I've got a breaking news story that I just want to intervene in a second, which has nothing really to do with electric vehicles or alternative fuels, but it does have something very big impact on the environment. So, but Dominic, you were going to say something, so I'll let you say what you were going to say, and then I'll go in.
I was just GM plans on releasing their own all-electric car, so I'm wondering, if they're attacking all-electric cars now, how are they going to,
reconcile
come back
this?
with a model later?
Good question. I mean, if you remember, I don't know if you guys, I'm a Mac geek. I'm a Mac girl. And back in the mid 1990s, Apple's major ads to differentiate themselves from PCs, which back in those days were the 386s or whatever they were, was that the Motorola G or PowerPC chips were faster than the IBM compatible chipset, and they actually used a series of adverts in which they mocked the IBM compatible chips, and as it turned out, or the Intel compatible chips, as it turned out, Apple eventually went, you know what? Actually, Intel makes faster chips than we can get with the PowerPC chipset, so we're just going to go to Intel. We were wrong, but they didn't say that. They just kind of ignored the fact that they'd had those. So maybe this is what GM are going to do. Maybe they're going to go, sorry, did we say range anxiety was a real thing? No, we just grabbed the term so nobody else could. We were doing you a favour. Don't worry.
We shall see.
Right. Breaking news story time. There has been apparently another Gulf oil explosion.
Oh.
I'm just looking now at the feeds. I had it a second ago. There is an oil rig exploded off the Louisiana coast. There is an oil rig on fire. That all 13 workers involved in the rig explosion are accounted for, but one person is injured. The Coast Guard helicopters are on the way to the site, 80 miles on the south of the Million Bay, and apparently 12 people went overboard and one was missing, but they have now accounted for them all. It's owned by Houston-based Mariner Energy, and then also there is news of an oil rig exploding in LA this morning, which I assume is just a small one.
2 explosions in one day?
Yeah.
Well,
doesn't that sound like something other than just an explosion?
I think LA is the it's abbreviation for Louisiana, actually.
Yeah, maybe it is Louisiana. Somebody else said there was a second explosion, and they said LA rather than Louisiana. So I may be right. You may be right there, Dominic. Yeah, that makes sense. So maybe there were 2 explosions. I don't know. So that's going to be an interesting thing for anyone wanting to drive green. Right, what's next? Someone said Greenpeace in the chat room, John Briggs. If Greenpeace did that, I'm going to be very upset. Right, Nissan 2011 Leaf. We are talking about the Leaf again. So earlier on this week, in the US, you can actually now finalise your order for the 2011 Nissan Leaf. There has been talk of some people being told they will get their cars by December the 1st, Dominic, which is great news, right? But I have a bone to pick with Nissan USA. There are 2 trim levels in the US. There's the SL and the SV, if I remember correctly. Just trying to look at my notes. Yeah, SV and SL. Now the SV is the standard version, and the SL is kind of the more deluxe version of the car, and it has a solar panel spoiler, which helps apparently with the air conditioning and keeping the battery trickle charged, which does very little really in Britain, but we've ordered one with it on.
Air conditioning with that little solar panel.
I think it's designed to keep air circulating around the car when it's parked. So it runs the fans, not traditional compressor AC. That would not work.
That's all right.
Anyway, the SV version, which is the lower version, which is has an MSRP of $32,780, does not feature, as standard, the fast charge level 3 charging port, which enables you to charge the car in about 30 minutes to 80% full. Now, the SL, which is the more expensive version, does have the fast charge port, but only as a $700 add-on option. And here's the kick in the teeth. If you want the fast charge port, you cannot add it after you've ordered the vehicle. It's not a retrofit option, at least certainly not now. I do expect a point, 5-10 years down the line where garages, maybe something like Luscious Garage in San Francisco or somewhere similar, offers that as a retrofit option. But right now, if you want a fast charge option, that's the only way you can do it. $700 when you order the car. And that seems very short-sighted to me. Guys, what do you think?
I thought also that they were only going to offer that for customers who are within a certain areas. If you're outside of the initial areas where they're making the deliveries, they won't even be offering that as an option. So I think it's maybe a little short-sighted, but as long as they make you aware of that going in, I guess those people could always wait until they order theirs. In the States, they've only allowed 200 people to order to begin with.
Right.
So.
Right. And I'm coming back. So someone has just turned me on, and I can hear myself coming back in the chat room. So someone needs to just pause me there for a second. Oh, I've gone. Right. Good. All right. So the thing that winds me up, I think, more than anything, is that fast charging is a real bonus for any electric vehicle. And sure, if you're an EV advocate, if you're an electric vehicle advocate, if you are someone who's a fan of electric vehicles, like I think all three of us here today are, you will understand and you will be okay with the fact that electric vehicles do take a while to charge, and electric vehicle batteries prefer to be slow charged rather than fast charged, and that actually 100 miles is more than enough for your daily drive. But here's the bugbear. I live about 240 miles from my mother's house on the other side of the UK. So it's actually a coast-to-coast drive. If I buy a car with a fast charge port, and I don't know if we'll be able to get the fast charge port here because they haven't told us. If I'm able to buy a car, understandably, for the fast charge port, and I can drive from my home in Bristol on the southwest coast of the UK to the middle of the country, stop for lunch with the kids, walk the dogs, have a wee. That if you're doing a road trip and you stop at the side of the road and you've got family, you're never going to stop. It's never going to take you less than 30 minutes to do a stop, because you've got to get the kids out of the car into the bathroom. You've then got to take care of the dogs. If you've got dogs, you've then got to take care of food. You probably want to stretch your legs. Kids have an argument. You sort the argument out, and then you're back on the road. That's at least half an hour. I could charge up in half an hour and get another 80 miles, 90 miles of range, travel a bit further, stop for a coffee in the afternoon, and I could visit my mum in an electric car. Now, without a fast charge option, I'm going to need an alternative. Now, that alternative could either be a hire car, which is going to be expensive, and I'm not going to be able to, kids and hire cars and dogs don't mix, or I have to keep, and I have to pay road tax for, and I have to keep my gas guzzling 20-year-old station wagon, because that's the only vehicle that will make the trip. Now,
there is another alternative, of course.
Go on, Mike.
There is an alternative. Well, car clubs are starting to take off here in the UK, just as they have been in parts of the States. And Peugeot have also got a plan where if you buy a Peugeot vehicle, and this can be anything from a bicycle up to a truck or a car or whatever, you can actually, they're piloting a scheme, and it's actually in your part of the country, where you can actually swap your car for something else, or your bicycle, or whatever you've got, for a different vehicle for the time that you need it. So if you do need to drive from one end of the country to the other, then that's not a problem. Now, yeah, of course, what we want is a fast charging network, but realistically, we're not going to see that for at least a year and a half here in the UK.
Yeah, and I think in the States that's true as well.
Yeah, and probably more like 3 years.
And in fact, though, I had a press release sent to me today, which I haven't yet had, but I spoke to someone from the PR company this morning. There's a new company coming on board in the UK now, installing a new generation of fast charge stations as opposed to the mains power that they currently have. I mean, in the UK, the charging stations that are currently installed in parking spots, in parking garages and at the side of roads are actually nothing more than a domestic power outlet.
Yep.
Which is fine if you've got a small number of electric vehicles, but if you've got a whole town worth of electric vehicles, if demand for the power sockets are so low that someone can park at that power point for 5 hours and nobody cares, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
But if they become so prevalent that actually people do need to charge quickly and then move on, then you have a problem, and that's I think a big issue. I'm checking for this news press release and it hasn't arrived, so I can't talk about it. I did tell them I talked about it on the show, but there we go. All right, so that's enough for the fast charge moan. Long distance drives, Dominic. There's one going across Canada right now, right?
A couple actually.
There's the IMEV one, and then there's another one, isn't there?
I think the University of British Columbia has a Volkswagen Beetle going across, and I think the Beetle might beat it. Might beat the IMEV.
Yeah, but this is what it comes down to. I like road trips. I think road trips are brilliant. I think road trips are great. But do you need to make one in an electric vehicle? What do you think, guys?
It's a really promotional affair. In the case of the IMEV, we did an article on it the other day, and one of the things about it, someone spotted it being charged. It was in between towns or something along the highway, and they're pulling a diesel generator with them.
Oh dear.
And with their backup vehicle has the generator with them, and so apparently though they say they've made this public beforehand, but I guess we hadn't seen any news about it. So when somebody spotted them, we brought it up. They have from Eaton, Canada. It's a manufacturer of electric engineering equipment. Supplied them with that to make their trip. But oddly enough, the UBC Beetle doing the same kind of trip going the other direction, they're just stopping at RV parks along the way and doing it all electric.
Yep.
Mitsubishi has partnered with Bullfrog Power as well, though, to get some. They've purchased clean carbon credits, I guess, for their pre-tour, tour, and post-tour charging requirements. But they are also indeed using some diesel. So I'm not sure exactly how successful this mission is going.
I'm getting some more feedback again. I'm sorry, everyone's listening at home. I can hear myself coming back through somebody else's connection. I'm not sure if it's yours, Dominic, or yours, Mike, but I can hear me. I don't know if you're watching the video, if either of you are watching the video from today's show at the site, because I can hear me coming back. But anyway, someone in the chat room says, "Oh, come on, extended range electric vehicles rock." I don't know if that was a joke, or if they believe it, or if they just want to spark debate. But if you want to come and join in the chat room, you can. www.transportevolved.com. It's right underneath me, look, just here in the video. www.transportevolved.com/live. If you look at the video, underneath it, there's a box. You just enter a name. There's no password. You just enter a name, and then you can come and join in with the chat room. We've got quite a few people chatting away today. But first of all, let's go on to our Audible ad. Now, have you heard of Audible before? If not, why not? Audible.com is a great place to go if you like listening to Audible books. Now, that means audiobooks, can be lectures, it can be radio shows, they sometimes have podcasts, but mostly books, great books. Everything from the classics right through to modern teenage. It's got romance, it's got science fiction, it's got history, it's got biographies. There's some great autobiographies on there. In fact, some of the autobiographies are actually read by the people who wrote the book, which is always great because then you get to hear that person talking their own life story, which is great. I think Woody Allen's autobiography is it's actually narrated by himself on there. But today's book, thanks to the kind support of the folks over at audiblepodcast.com/transport evolved, you can get a free book. Now, if you go to the website I just gave you, that's www.audiblepodcast.com/transport evolved, you can sign up for a free 14-day no obligation trial, and you can also claim a free audiobook. Now, today's audiobook is a pick from a series of audiobooks, all by Jeff Kinney. They're not particularly long, but this is another one for you and your kids to listen to together. If you have been to the cinema recently, or the theatre if you're in America, and watched The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, this is the book for you. They are actually, in fact, on Audible, and you can listen to them as fantastic audiobooks. We've got The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days, The Diary of a Wimpy Kid The Last Straw, and Roderick Rules, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. They're all in the same series, and they're all narrated by Raman de Ocampo, and fantastic series. Watch the film, but you should, of course, read the book, and why not listen to the book on audible.com. Thanks to them for their kind support of the show. Right, on with a few more stories, and then we are done. Now, lithium-ion batteries are better for the environment than people thought. Did you see this?
I agree with that. I did see this. It was quite interesting because I did some research into this exact thing earlier on this year, and the figures that I was getting was completely different to what all the detractors were saying about how terrible lithium is and everything else. Well, the reality is that it's a very clean form of energy storage. It really is. So it came as no surprise to find that some proper scientists had done the same sort of research and come up with similar sort of results. I was quite pleased with that. So yeah, I mean, basically, it adds very, very small amount of carbon. If you take the carbon footprint and divide it over the lifespan of the battery, lithium is a very, very effective form of storage. It's 3 or 4 grams a kilometre for for the footprint of the battery itself, which is nothing.
Well, these guys are saying that the footprint of the battery, the footprint of an electric car, the carbon footprint of an electric car, or the resource use of an electric car, as opposed to the carbon footprint, in fact, only 15% of the total environmental impact of building the car could be attributed to the battery pack, and only 2.3% came from mining and processing raw lithium. So
agreed. I mean, lithium is a really I say it's simple to mine. Well, it isn't, but but compared to something like coal or oil or anything like that, it is a very simple thing to do in comparison. And what I did with my calculations is I split the battery off from the production of the car. So what you actually found was the production of the carbon footprint of building an electric car tends to be slightly lower than a normal gasoline-powered car because you've got less components in there and all that sort of stuff. And the battery is separate, adds 3-4 grams of carbon dioxide per kilometre travelled, which added to the electricity usage is nothing, and it still means it's an absolute fraction of what the carbon footprint of gasoline or diesel. So
yeah, in fact, this study, which is by a Swiss organisation, concluded, I think you had to have something like, I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head, it was something like 60 miles, no, more than that, I think it was 70 miles to the gallon. No, 60 miles per US gallon, which is about 80 or 90 miles to the gallon UK. That's incredible. Really is incredible, the difference there in that. So, really, there isn't much against electric vehicles now, other than the mainstream media. I mean, this article did say, and to be fair, that if electric vehicles were charged from coal, then bad things happened to that equivalent rating. But if they were from all pure sources of electricity or non-polluting sources of electricity, then it would be absolutely very fine.
But they also didn't take into account the actual processing of the gasoline as well. So I mean, their figures are actually lower on gasoline than they should be, because if you actually take into account the the extraction of the oil and the processing of the oil and the transportation of the fuel to the service station and the pumping of the stuff into the vehicle, then actually all that adds up quite to a considerable amount more. And in comparison, the losses on the electricity from the power station to the home is a tiny percentage in comparison. So even then they didn't quite get the calculations quite right.
Yeah. Yes. Oh well. Now, HOV lane access in America for cars. Dominic, did you cover this one? Is it one of your stories?
I didn't cover it myself. I did see Chelsea Sexton had written a little bit about it on her Facebook account. I was reading a lot of the comments back and forth.
Right.
So
would you give us a rundown? Because it's basically, up until recently, if you wanted to go in an HOV lane, which is a high occupancy vehicle lane, you either had to be driving a zero emissions vehicle like an electric car. Now, before anybody writes in and complains, zero emissions from the tailpipe, or an ultra low emissions vehicle like a plug-in Prius or a hybrid. But that's all set to change, right?
Or you could have more than one person in your car too.
You could have one, which is the original idea of a high occupancy vehicle lane.
Right. But now I believe the current Prius will be stricken from the HOV lanes next June, I believe. But the plug-in Priuses coming along after that will be allowed back in them. The Chevy Volt, until it meets requirements for emissions requirements, they won't be allowed in it. So you'll be stuck in the slow lanes with all the other chaps.
Which has upset quite a lot of people.
Yes.
There we go. And I'm getting feedback again. I don't know where I'm feedback again from, but I'm getting feedback. It's very bizarre. I can hear myself coming back. If you're listening to this and you can't hear it, then you'll know that I'm going mad and there are little voices inside my head. If you can hear it, it means that I'm not going insane and there are not little voices in my head, or I've edited it out. Those are the two options.
I think you're going mad, Nikki. I think that's what it is.
Yes.
It's a safe thing to assume.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, you do want to come on again, don't you? I guess. Right. So Tesla are talking about, we've talked about General Motors coining the word, trying to trademark the phrase range anxiety. Tesla have hit back with Tesla Grin. I think the electric vehicle advocacy movement and perhaps independents should then hit back with trademarking the term EV Grin before somebody else does, because EV Grin has been an expected and common phrase amongst electric vehicle advocates for people who try electric vehicles for the first time, and that's that word, EV Grin. So maybe we should What do you think, Mike? Trademark it?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we can come up with something to trademark. Should be good fun. I've been looking into all the IPO stuff. Incidentally, if you don't like the idea of General Motors trying to get a trademark on range anxiety, you can always complain to the Intellectual Property Office, and you'll probably get it overthrown. So there you go.
Is that in the US as well as the UK?
It is, yeah. If you can show the Intellectual Property Office that the term is in general use within that industry, it is not trademarkable.
Somebody in the chat room said that one of our regulars on the show, John Volker, has coined a term called bladder anxiety for vehicles with a range larger than your bladder can hold out. May vary.
Yeah, I like that one, John.
May vary depending on who the driver is and whether you have small children on board or not. Right. EPA have been busy this week with fuel economy ratings for vehicles. At least they've tried to come up with a way of working out whether a vehicle is green or not. Now, in the US, this is a common thing that there is confusion about this all, whereas in the UK, we're used to it, aren't we, Mike?
What confusion? Yeah,
we're used to rating vehicles using letters, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And this is what the US are now talking about doing. The EPA, they're suggesting, they haven't yet confirmed that they're going to do it, right, Dominic?
No, I think there's still like a 60-day comment period going on with it. But I didn't realize that you had the letter rating over there.
Yeah. In fact, we letter grade everything in the UK because we're obsessed with letters. Even your house has to have an Energy Star rating equivalent, which uses like a letter to describe how much carbon what your carbon footprint is of your house and how energy efficient your house is. Household appliances, it's been for years, hasn't it, Mike? At least 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5. It's been a legal requirement.
For household appliances, some of it's been up to 10 years now. Yeah. So and cars are at least 6-7 years that's been around. Yeah. So
and you go in and you buy.
It works well.
Yeah, I mean, I walk into a car dealership and most cars are rated E or F.
Yeah, it's really interesting watching people go into a shop and they will not buy something which is sort of high rating if they can buy one, even if it's if there's a price difference. They will quite often spend the extra money on going for A or B rating rather than a C or D. And I've seen people in Mercedes showrooms, for instance, go in and recoil when they realise that the car they were looking at is band H, band J, or whatever, and they. It makes them think whether they really want to buy that car or not.
But it goes the other way because I have a friend who's just looking into buying a Nissan, one of the Nissan crossover vehicles, and I can't think of the name of it now. The Nissan, not the Nissan Pathfinder, that's too big. One of the crossover ones. Anyway, and we were talking about it, and they went, "Oh yeah, it's a D rating. It's really good." And I said,
well, I guess if you're on G or H at the moment, then D's pretty good.
My car's a B and A rating. This is the world that normal people live in. I don't count myself as not being normal. But anyway, according to the EPA, their proposal is A star rating, which is 0 to 76 0 to 76 grams of carbon dioxide per mile. I had to look at that and then re-say it. Or an equivalent of 117 miles per gallon and upwards would be something like an electric vehicle. A would be the equivalent of between 77 and 152 grams of carbon dioxide per mile. And that would be the equivalent of between 59 and 116 miles to the gallon. Now, this is all in US, which would be a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Something like the Toyota Prius, a Honda Civic Hybrid or Ford Fusion Hybrid would fit into the A- category. And the categories continue. I mean, a B-rated vehicle would have a carbon dioxide output of 306 to 382 grams per mile. and that would be something like 24 to 29, 30 miles to the gallon. And you're talking about things like Chevy Malibu, Ford Escapes, Toyota Matrix, and RAV4s. So that's interesting. But they don't seem to go any further down the list. I don't know if they're just going to go A plus A minus, B plus, and B. But I think they should keep going down the alphabet. And what's a Hummer going to be? And you have any guesses? Answers on a postcard, please.
Z.
Qashqai. Thank you. The person who said that in the chat room.
Yeah.
That's a Qashqai. Yeah, my friend. He's looking into a Qashqai and thought it was really fuel efficient. I went, yes. Yeah, I suppose, compared to what you're currently driving, yes. It's very fuel efficient. There was one other story I wanted to talk about, and I cannot remember what it was, and my brain has stopped working because it's too late in the day. A bit of sad news, actually. We had a death in the electric vehicle community this week. And very sadly, actually, there was an inventor who was working alongside the electric vehicle industry, and in fact the electric motorbike industry, was sadly killed very tragically in a car collision with a Toyota Prius, I believe. And the driver of the Prius also died. And I'm just trying to find the guy's name, and I can't remember. This is terrible when this happens, isn't it? Domenick?
Matthew Dykeman.
That's it, Matthew Dykeman. That's it.
Electric race.
And he was involved with designing some of the vehicles that ran in the TTX GP. In fact, his vehicle... and came in third in...
First race of the North American Championship.
Yeah. And he was the president of Santa Rosa-based electric race bikes. And our sympathies go to him and his family, because it's a horrible, 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 tragic thing. He was only 29 years old. So electric vehicles and electric motorbikes have lost a very, very important person. So our sympathy goes to his family and friends at this difficult time. Thank you very much for joining us today. Domenick, where can people find out more about you and what you are up to?
I am exclusively on Autobloggreen, or you could follow me on Twitter at Twitter Domenick_Y. And that's where I am.
Excellent. Mike, thanks for joining me today. Where are you at?
Pleasure, as ever. I'm not anywhere very much at the moment, only electriccar.com obviously, but I'm pretty much going underground for a little while, because we're working on these new electric vehicles and all sorts of new exciting stuff, and that's really going to take up a lot of my energy over the next few months. I will be back from time to time, if you'll let me, to give you a little progress report of what's going on. So if people are interested in what it's like to be developing electric vehicles and everything else, then hopefully I'll be able to give a bit of an insight into that.
But, you can come back anytime, Mike.
So it'll be fun.
You can come back anytime. I'm sure you will be back a couple of times in the next couple of months.
Of course.
You are, of course, always welcome. You are always welcome.
Thank you.
Founder member of the Transport Evolved podcast. Sorry, I'm flagging a bit today. I think spending 2 hours on a motorbike, having a motorbike lesson, and then coming to a very hot studio has made me feel very sleepy.
Yeah,
and I can smell dinner coming from the other room as well. So I know it's supper time, and I can smell the smell of dinner. It smells good. Numb bums is no excuse, said Jimmy Dreams in the chat room. Thank you, Jimmy. I'll try and remember that. As always, thank you to everyone for joining us live in the chat room. We had a great number of people in the chat room today, and I think I'll do that again. I will say I'll put the address along the bottom next time. You can join us live, www.transportevolved.com/live, every Thursday at 4 p.m. British Summer Time, which is 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in the US. If you're anywhere else in the world, you'll figure it out. I'm sure you will. And as always, you can find us in the local iTunes feed. You can find us on blip.tv. You can also find us on Roku and Boxy, because we've just received our approval to take part in that. So that's brilliant because, we need all the supporters we can get. If you've watched this show today, if you've listened to this show today, please do a tweet. Tweet at us. What should we say? Thanks for the fun Transport Evolved and at Evolved Transport on Twitter. And then we know that you're listening. And then it also obviously serves as a bit of incentive to other people to come along and watch the show. If you have any ideas for guests, you have any topics that we want to cover, don't forget, you can email us. That is podcast@transportevolved.com. You can also send feedback there. And I will see you next week. One final thing. I wish to congratulate this young lady, Miss Camille Ricketts, who's just appeared there because I have a picture of her. She was on a previous show. Miss Camille Ricketts, congratulations on your recent job progression. Not job progression, that makes it sound like your old job wasn't any good. Your change of career. Let's put it like that. You've gone from VentureBeat over at Greenbeat to working at Tesla. So congratulations. And we wish you all the very best and hope at some point we can get you on, but not to talk about Tesla because that's a conflict of interest and we all know that. I'll disappear now. I'm going to go and have some supper. So enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world and wherever you are listening. And don't forget, if you're in the UK and you want a Nissan Leaf, jump online and order one now. It's not too late. See you soon, folks. Take care. See ya. Bye.